So hello and welcome to the complete history of Bully. Today's episode we're going to be focusing on the, well, let's just say less than positive reception Bully got before and after its release. Now, as Bully is a very controversial game, Bully had its fair share of harsh criticism before the game was even released, much like Rockstar's other games such as Grand Theft Auto and Manhunt. Now for this part we're going to cover things a bit differently, as for this series I kind of wanted to go in order timeline wise from the late 1990s all the way to the early 2020s. But some of Bully's issues stem from its announcement in early 2005 and as far as Scholarship Edition's release in 2008, so for this part I'm going to cover the issues in full by country. So we're going to start off with my home country of the United Kingdom, where Bully, and to a lesser extent Manhunt, were actually brought up in the House of Commons on the 25th of October 2005, where Labour Member of Parliament for Leicester East, Keith Vaz, actually brought up his concerns with Bully and wanted the government to ban the game by saying this. On the 10th of November last year, the mother of the murdered Leicester schoolchild Stefan Pakia told the Prime Minister she believed her son's killer was influenced by the game Manhunt. Last week in Sheffield, a young schoolgirl, Shani Naylor, was seriously injured by bullies, and 31,000 children complained to Childline about bullying last year. Does the leader of the House share my concern that the decision of Rockstar Games to publish a new game called Bully in which players use their on-screen persona to punch and kick other schoolchildren? Will he ask the Prime Minister to refer this game to the British Board of Film Classifications? And if it does not make any changes, will the government use their powers to ban this game? However, Keith's comments were addressed appropriately and pretty fairly by fellow Labour Member of Parliament for Nottinghamshire, Jeff Hoon, who responded by saying, "First, I pay tribute to my honourable friend for his excellent work in this difficult and sensitive area. We have certainly been working very closely with the video games industry to ensure that young people have access only to games that contain material appropriate for them, and that parents have information on what material a game contains. So the precise nature of its content, disturbing as it may sound, and the degree to which it may be considered harmful to children is not yet fully known." Now for non-Brits, the BBFC is the British Board of Film Classification, who used to rate games over here before it was moved to PEGI. And Keith's remarks were also slammed down by Rockstar themselves, who said that Bully would have an engaging story and products should not be judged on their titles alone. More and more people are beginning to recognise that stories in games have as many themes and plot lines as books and movies do. Also in the United Kingdom, retailers Currys flat out refused to sell Bully, believing it would harm their family-friendly image, citing their decision as a link between violence and school children as one of the main reasons behind it. They also said, "We haven't taken this decision lightly, particularly considering the excellent relationship we have with Rockstar Games." But interestingly, two other British retailers, these being PC World and Dixons, also refused to sell Bully. Note for Brits, this was before Currys and PC World became one. But all three of these retailers were owned by DSG International, so it seems very likely the decision to ban Bully from their shelves came from the head office. An anti-bullying charity named Beat Bullying were also not fond of Bully, as a spokesman for the charity, Niall Cowley, said that "We're disappointed that Bully was made in the first place. Some mindless people thought that this was a fun, interesting piece of software to create. But all Bully does is undermine the hard work that organisations like us are trying to do." And like with Keith Vaz, Rockstar responded by saying Bully is a comedic romp. It's not a game about being a bully, but it's a game about the trials and tribulations of a boy during his year at high school. Jimmy protects children against other characters, and people have to make up their own minds and judge Bully for themselves with an open mind. However, while Bully never got banned in the United Kingdom, Rockstar did willingly change the name on their own accord, changing the name from Bully to Canis Canem in Europe, which is Latin for dog eat dog and the motto for Borth Academy. Other than this, the loading screens were changed to reflect this, but other than that there are absolutely no changes that were brought into this version. The Canis Canem edit name remains even to this day on the PlayStation re-releases on the PS2 Classic Store for the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, even though Scholarship Edition has sort of been renamed back to Bully, if that makes sense. So going across the pond all the way to Canada, Bully was brought to light by the Canadian Teachers Foundation, with its president Emily Noble, who tried to persuade retailers to refuse to sell Bully, much like Currys did in the UK. And they also put out a statement saying that Bully glorifies bullying, and the abuse includes dunking pupils' heads in toilets, photographing them naked, and assaulting them. Teachers are also targeting this game. "We're asking retailers to be responsible. Yes, you can sell it and make money off this, but what kind of marketing do they want to be doing selling games that glorify violence? What Bully does is it encourages kids to target other kids, to be a bully to other kids, and that doesn't help teachers at school." However, Rodney Walker, who I don't believe has any affiliation with Take-Two Interactive or Rockstar Games, responded by saying, "Okay, we know this is an entertainment experience. Video games are not just for children, and this game happens to be about high school, and it's about a tough kid in a tough environment. But it's also one of the funniest games you will play. If you don't have our sense of humour, we can respect that, but we believe that fans' voices have to be as important as the detractors' voices are. And a professor at Montreal University, Michael Hoxman, said that as tempting as it may seem, I'm not so certain banning this game will result in a more loving and peaceful school population. Jimmy is a young person being confronted with all that seeks the one remedy that Jimmy has access to. If there was a peaceful school committee at Wolf Academy, Jimmy would probably join the community. So now we're going to go all the way down to South America and pay a visit to Brazil, where in late 2007 and early 2008, Brazil seems to have gone through a bit of a crackdown on some games, as they banned the likes of Counter-Strike and EverQuest, saying it was harmful to consumers' health and saying they threatened the state. Yeah, I have no idea what that seems supposed to mean either, but yeah, it didn't take long for Buddy to be caught up in this kind of mass banning either, as Buddy became banned on the 10th of April 2008, following a request from a youth support centre, as Judge Flavio Rebello ruled a complete ban on anything to do with Buddy. All sales, all imports of the game were completely forbidden, and every company in the country had 30 days to comply. The judge ruled the setting for Buddy was the biggest factor in his choice to ban, and was entirely based on a psychology study. In a comment, he also said that the aggravating factor in Buddy is that everything takes place inside a school. This is not acceptable. The law passed down was that anybody caught selling or even owning Buddy would face a daily fine of 1,000 real, which when converted to United States dollars, pounds and euros by 2022 standards, this part will be a bit off as time goes on and currencies fluctuate, but yeah, in 2022 standards that would be a daily fine of $196.85, £159.94 or €187.77. A spokesman for Take-Two Interactive, Edward Nebb, said the choice to ban Buddy would prevent Brazilian players from enjoying Buddy, but didn't believe it would have an actual impact on sales. However, Brazil lifted their ban on Buddy on the 23rd of June 2016, but it's unknown how effective this ban was, as it's reported many Brazilian players still play Buddy via piracy and bootleg copies anyway. So we're not going to visit a country this time, but instead a completely different community, because another bit of controversy Buddy garnered was its inclusion of LGBT content, where Jimmy had the option to kiss boys if the player wanted to. And understandably, this was praised by the LGBT community, especially during a time where this kind of stuff was much more unheard of than it is today. Members of the gay community were more than enthusiastic of its inclusion, saying a giant like Rockstar Games adding in such a feature and there being no negatives to same-sex relationship was a massive step forward for progress. The founder of Gay Gamer, Flynn DeMarco, said in an interview that the interesting thing about Buddy is you've got the choice, and to be able to have that option makes the game much more realistic. Some other comments included, I applaud Rockstar's ballsiness in actually letting you have the free will on who you want to kiss, and true to life, not every boy will want to lock lips with you. However, was this a homage to the choices we get in life, or did they try to include this to try and generate some more controversy, stir the pot and boost some sales? Some other members of the LGBT community said they felt shocked at the addition being included because it felt surreal seeing their sexuality being treated as equal and made them feel more accepted playing Buddy. The addition of this was also wanted and praised for by Buddy's designers Jacob Carap and John Mobaria, as Jacob wanted it included but was ultimately turned down initially, as they wanted to get Buddy much more complete before they started adding in the smaller features. But when Buddy was much more complete and he brought it up again, there were no objections to this, and John Mobaria also liked the addition because they wanted the player to have as much customization with Jimmy as they could pack into the game. And it turns out they made it work because most of Jimmy's make-out lines were pretty gender neutral overall, and all they had to do was just tag some of the male NPCs as kissable and it was good to go. But as you can probably guess, this wasn't met with praise from everybody, as the optional feature you never really told about, it was also met with a hell of a lot of backlash. For example, Jack Thompson, a lifelong thorn in Rockstar Games' side, was strongly against the addition of this. We'll get more into Jack's antics later, but when he found out about the kissing feature, he was really not happy, and he wrote a letter to the ESRB saying Buddy included gay sexual content, and it was illegal, and should be pulled for that alone. However, the ESRB responded to him by saying they were fully aware this was in the game when they rated it, it was not illegal nor sexual because it was just kissing. Jack also claimed that he informed every major news organisation in the United States and the United Kingdom about this, but he was either bullshitting or he was ultimately ignored because nobody ever reported on this. Even Take-Two representatives didn't even bother to entertain Jack's claims of sexual content. Now, according to the Boston Globe, the National Institute on Media and the Family tried to boycott Buddy, saying the T rating was highly inappropriate for its inclusion of gay content, and suggested it should be mature at the very least. However, in a bit of a funny twist, despite being against Buddy, the NIMF actually ended up having a fallout with Jack Thompson, as he kept on using their name against Buddy and many other games. So they ended up sending him a cease and desist to stop using their name without permission, because in their words, Jack Thompson's use of the brand, his extreme fabrications and his antagonistic methods left a negative influence on what the NIMF tried to accomplish. Also, as I'm making this, it's considered lost media, but Buddy's Kissing Boys feature was also included on the show Best Week Ever. Likely in a negative light, as Buddy's appearance on that show was fixated on the feature, and the show was known for its sometimes cruel commentary on whatever segment they were showing. Some achievement hunters were really not happy that one of the achievements on Xbox was to kiss 25 boys, while those in the LGBT community thought it was funny knowing Rockstar likely added that achievement purposely to annoy some homophobes. Rockstar themselves actually did come forward and defended the addition of same-sex kissing, saying there was nothing wrong with homosexuality anyway. So now let's get on to the big one, the one that you're probably all mostly familiar with, but we have a hell of a lot to go over. So let's go all the way to the United States and take a visit to Florida, where we're going to visit, well, our good old friend Jack Thompson. We've already covered some of his antics, but we've got a hell of a lot more to go over with him, so strap in people, because we have a lot to go over with Jack Thompson versus Buddy. So, when Jack first heard about Buddy, he was not impressed. He called Buddy a Columbine simulator, citing that in Buddy you had to extract revenge on those who victimised you like Klebold and Harris did. He also claimed that Buddy had white on black violence, you could bludgeon teachers and classmates with bats, and shows you how you can take over your own school by bullying others.
Have you spent any time with Bully? Have you actually seen the game being played at all?
No, really nobody has, except people that Rockstar and Take-Two want to see it. But what I provided on the internet were exclusive screenshots, not the 3 that Rockstar had up for months, showing a dunking of a black student's head in a dirty toilet, body slamming, punching, the description.
So, on the 5th of August 2005, Jack Thompson wrote a letter to then Microsoft CEO Bill Gates about Buddy, simply stating, "Dear Mr. Gates, you have 54 days in which to stop the release of Buddy on Xbox. Govern yourself accordingly. Sincerely, Jack Thompson." And on that very same day, Jack Thompson and the activist group Peaceaholics staged a protest outside Rockstar's offices in New York City, even going as far as to wear t-shirts that had a screenshot of Buddy on them, but crossed out and had signs saying Rockstar games for felons. And Jack and the group had a strong list of demands that they demanded Rockstar games follow. These demands were: number 1, not to release Buddy under any circumstances. Number 2, you will volunteer to sell its violent and sexually explicit games in adult video stores only. Number 3, you will let parents return Grand Theft Auto for a full refund until Rockstar do a national awareness campaign to educate parents of GTA's content and its possible side effects. Number 4, Rockstar will create a fund for victims of unauthorised use of motor vehicle and carjackings. Number 5, Rockstar will make a national apology for misleading and lying to children, parents and legislators about their intentions, which cause insurance premiums to skyrocket. And the 6th and final one is Rockstar will give a written response within 5 business days in receipt of these demands. As you can probably guess, this never happened and the protesters' demand went completely and utterly ignored. Although I could imagine that the Rockstar officers got a good laugh out of it. So, in August 2006, Jack Thompson demanded he have an early copy of Buddy through Congress, and he even threatened to file a lawsuit in Miami, Florida if he didn't gain any help from United States Representative Cliff Stearns, claiming the horse will be at the barn and it'll be too late to do anything about it, citing that Buddy is in violation of Florida's public nuisance laws, it could injure the health of the community. Instead, Rockstar said they were a bit disappointed that Jack greatly misunderstood what Buddy was all about. So, in October, Jack went ahead and filed a lawsuit against Take-Two Interactive alongside retailers Walmart and GameStop. The trial was actually scheduled for October 12th, in a last-ditch effort to try and get Buddy banned in Florida at the very least. So, to remain neutral, Jack requested that an independent third party play Buddy and let them decide if it was offensive enough, and Take-Two agreed to this. They brought in a copy of Buddy to let the judge Ronald Friedman and the court see for themselves. The independent party who was going to play Buddy was going to be none other than the judge himself, with his assistant Vera Wiesbrod, who played the game privately before they'd come to a conclusion. Now Jack got a bit ahead of himself here, as he did make a statement before the case even ended, saying it appears that finally the violent video game industry is going to be held accountable to somebody. But unfortunately for Jack, the case lasted less than a day, because on October 13th, Ronald came to the decision there was absolutely nothing in Buddy that was worthy of banning. Pretty much everything in Buddy was not that different that you see on late night TV shows, and ultimately ruled in favour of Take-Two Interactive. Buddy was not going to be banned at all, but Ronald did say he wouldn't want his own kids to play Buddy, but that shouldn't mean the game shouldn't be shipped at all. Now Jack Thompson was absolutely furious at this because he immediately lashed out at Ronald Friedman with an open letter. I'm not going to read all this because it's pretty insane. It starts off fine but does get insane later on. But basically, Jack claims that Ronald's decision not to ban Buddy had now subjected kids to be attacked with bats and slingshots, claimed Ronald broke his promise to play Buddy until the very end, which he didn't, called Take-Two employee Rebecca Ward a liar, saying she was fabricating a lot of the material that was shown to the court, Republicans could not even protect their own reputation, and that Jack would bring a parent with him at Ronald's next court hearing who was killed because Buddy trained their killer to do so. However, Jack Thompson's behaviour resulted in a case against him by the judge, Ronald Friedman, and the Florida bar, who called his behaviour inappropriate by a member of the bar, unprofessional and contemptible. However, this Buddy case seemed to spell the beginning of the end for Jack, because in March 2007, Jack and Take-Two were in court again before the release of Manhunt 2 and Grand Theft Auto 4. But this time the tables had turned, because rather than it be Jack Thompson trying to ban one of Take-Two's games that he didn't like, instead Take-Two Interactive had sued Jack Thompson, because at this point they were just fed up of him at this point. Pretty much every single one of their games from GTA 3 up until, I guess you could say, Buddy, Manhunt 2 and GTA 4, every single game he tried to get banned. So you can understand why Take-Two were pretty much just fed up of him at this point and wanted to make a bit of an example out of him. So Take-Two sued Jack Thompson, saying that he was abusing Florida's public nuisance laws, he was harming relations with Take-Two Interactive and their possible retailers, claiming his lawsuits have unpredictable circumstances, and Jack was violating Take-Two's First Amendment rights. And Jack Thompson went a bit kind of mad because he published a rather religious response by reciting Psalms 35, and claiming that Take-Two Interactive would be gone by March 23rd, 2007. Ultimately, Take-Two and Jack came to an agreement in April 2007 which had the following consequences for Jack. He was forbidden for ever trying to block the sales of any Take-Two Interactive game. He was forbidden for ever talking to a third party that does business with Take-Two about any game that may or may not be controversial, and if Jack Thompson wished to speak with Take-Two, it would have to be through their attorneys. What Jack Thompson got at the deal was that Take-Two dropped their lawsuit against him, and Take-Two had also dropped the contempt of court issue that was related to Jack's behaviour at the result of the Buddy case. However, just over a year later, Jack Thompson was permanently disbarred from the state of Florida on September 25, 2008, which is why we haven't heard from him much about Red Dead Redemption and GTA 5, and why we probably won't be hearing him again if Buddy 2 ever gets announced. He still sometimes publishes his own opinions on his own site, but I don't think anybody really listens to him. But yeah, that's about it for today's video, and pretty much most of the controversy that Buddy garnered. I hope you enjoyed this kind of retrospective look back, and have a great day, I guess.